benzos particularly, you have to ask questions. You have to find out what the person is using, what the person struggles with. So for instance, there are certain chemicals that respond to the body more severely than others. So if, like opiates for example, opiates include heroin, Vicodin, oxycodone, Oxycontin, methadone, and basically a number of other fun drugs. So these drugs become, your brain literally becomes chemically dependent physically dependent on these drugs. So you can't just stop cold turkey without epic misery. So it's actually a dangerous thing to stop. That's when you'll meet people in the street, with the word they use is dope sick. I don't know if any of you have run into that. But someone who says that they are dope sick is someone who is desperate need of a hit of some sort of opiate. They are probably addicted to heroin, or they're probably addicted to prescription pills. And if they are freaking out because they're terrified of the next 10 minutes of their life, it is probably because they are dope sick, and they are terrified of being dope sick, because it is probably the most miserable feeling in the entire world. You literally want to die. It's awful. So the interesting, interesting to me because I'm weird, but people a lot of times who are addicted to heroin actually function better on heroin than they would off. So you can't just you can't look at someone and be like, oh wow, that person's a drug addict, because they're like falling on themselves. I mean, that's possibly the case, but it's probably not the heroin that's making them do that. Heroin actually oftentimes, or opiates will oftentimes help someone sort of function. It'll bring them back to baseline. So sometimes it's hard to tell if someone's using heroin or not unless you're really, really experienced with it, because the issue becomes heroin brings them back to baseline, back to normal. So if someone is addicted to heroin, they can't just stop. They're going to have to go to detox first. Alcohol is the same way. Your body becomes physically dependent on alcohol. So people now alcohol is a little different in the sense that there's a spectrum. So like one of the questions I'll ask someone who says they struggle with alcohol is I'll say, how much are you drinking? And if they're like, like a pint a day, or they'll say like some astronomical amount. My next question, even if they say like a couple beers a day, whatever it is, I'll typically ask them, well, what does your body do when you stop? So what happens to you physically when you stop drinking? And trust me, they will know. If they bring up alcoholism and they bring up that as an issue, they will be able to tell you how their body responds. So they'll either say, I just get like shaky. Some people say, no, I'm okay, I just get really shaky. That's actually not the end. That person may not require a detox. So the person just gets shaky and they're willing to kind of commit to like just pushing through that shakiness, you can probably get that person right into a program, right into the Bowery mission, right into the rescue mission. But if the person's like, no, I vomit, chills, fever, like they're like, no, there's no, like, again, they'll know. They'll say, no, I need a detox. I need a medical detox where they'll prescribe Librium, or they'll prescribe something that will help them through the misery of detoxification. So benzos is the same thing. Benzos include Xanax, clonazepam, a bunch of basically anti-anxiety drugs. A lot of people who are taking anti-anxiety drugs, the people will use those sort of recreationally, especially, but honestly, in my opinion about that is that if someone's homeless, odds are they've got a lot of anxiety, it's understandable. So it wouldn't actually be surprising if a doctor prescribed it. A lot of times people are getting prescribed Xanax, even though they're in the street, because they are genuinely depressed. They're genuinely struggling with anxiety. And it's hard to tell which came first, the chicken or the egg. This person, in the street because they took, addicted to Xanax, or they addicted to Xanax because they're in the street. It's kind of hard to tell. But either way, they can't go into a program before detoxing off the Xanax. So that's another drug that we're required. Cocaine, marijuana, those things are a little different. Because cocaine is more of a mental addiction than it is a physiological one. Technically, you don't need a detox for crack or for cocaine. You can survive going right into a program. Probably. The issue with cocaine is that it really messes with your heart, and it pumps up. So people who die of an overdose from crack or from cocaine, they don't die of an overdose the way people die of overdoses with heroin. They actually just have heart attacks typically, or they have some sort of blood-related issue because their heart is just going crazy. So it's a little bit of a different reaction that you have with crack and with cocaine than it is with heroin or with opiates and alcohol and other things. So, like for instance, again, I met someone who's like, I'm using marijuana, I need a detox. I'm like, how badly? Do you want a program? Do you want to go into a place where you can get kind of have a timeout and get free, spend some time taking care of yourself, or is this a situation where you're just trying to get 4 days in a bed? and you're using your marijuana as an excuse to do that. There are places you can get them for detox for marijuana, but it's not the same medical urgency that it would be if you were talking about opiates or alcohol. Most detoxes are 3 to 5 days. Most of them are medical. Like when I talk about detox, I'm talking about medical detox. So a lot of them are in hospitals. A lot of them are. So Bellevue has a detox. St. Barnabas has a detox. Beth Israel has a detox. There's a list actually in your material too about other places that do detox towards the end of your packet. So you can kind of think through. One of the questions I ask people if they say they want to go to detox is I'll ask them where have they been before. Because a lot of people who are in the street are serial detox hopping. So you end up with this issue. So a lot of times people will say, oh, I won't go to ACI, or I won't go to Promesa, or I won't go to whatever the detox is. Sometimes it's because they know that they've been there and they're sort of a regular, and they don't want to go back to the same place that they always go. So you can ask the question, what detoxes have you been to? The other important question with detox is, when was the last time you did a detox? Because the problem is if someone has Medicaid, their Medicaid will only cover one detox every 30 days. So for instance, last Saturday in the Bronx, or 2 Saturdays ago in the Bronx, I met a guy who said he wanted to go to detox. Well, he told me he left Promesa detox 3 days before. And he left Promesa detox, went right to his dealer and got high, and now he's been using like crazy. And I said, well, the problem, my friend, is that you can't actually go to a medical facility because you've gone, like, they've already billed your Medicaid for that. As long as they tagged, like as soon as Medicaid billed that and tagged it as a detox charge, related charge, even if he wasn't there for the whole thing, if he left there, 24 hours into it, if they come up that he's been in the detox, they will use that to reject his claim, and he will not. They will run that beforehand, and they will say they can't take him. So if you send someone to a detox and it turns out that they've been to one within the last 30 days, and you went to all this trouble to get them there, you may find out that they get turned away because their Medicaid won't cover it. So you have to ask that question: when was the last time you were there? Where have you been? The other issue, like I said, Medicaid is a question you can ask people is your Medicaid restricted? Restricted Medicaid is sort of it's an issue when someone their benefits is restricted to a specific hospital for a variety of reasons. It can happen for a variety of reasons. One of the reasons it happens is because of the Medicaid Get Paid scams that I don't know if you guys have seen these. Basically, people walk around and they say Medicaid Get Paid, $25 for a dental, and they'll walk around dental, or stress test, or whatever it is. And what they're doing is they're bringing that person to an office where they're billing Medicaid for a bunch of money for a procedure that they're not actually doing, and then they're giving the client $25 cash and walking them out the door. It's basically a Medicaid scam. Well, what happens is a lot of times is that the person will then have their Medicaid restricted to a specific hospital because Medicaid doesn't want to keep on getting nailed for these huge charges that are fraudulent. So they can't really punish the place. They'll try, but it's hard to kind of lock down these guys who are doing the scam. So to fight that or combat that, they'll restrict the person in question who's doing the Medicaid, the fraudulent charges for $25, whatever. They'll restrict them to a hospital. So now if that person wants any treatment whatsoever, they have to go through that hospital because their insurance knows that hospital is legit and will run they're not doing any scams, they're not doing anything shady. So that's why someone's restricted. That becomes a problem when someone needs detox and they are trying to get into detox right away, but they have restricted Medicaid. I can't send them for instance, on a weekend. On a Saturday, I can't get someone into detox if their Medicaid is restricted to a specific hospital, and they need a letter from that hospital authorizing the procedure, but the people who write the letter are only available Monday to Friday. So you end up with a situation where someone needs detox on a Saturday, they're out of luck. Because there's really nothing they can do. The only option that person would have is to go into an emergency room. And even then, there's no guarantee that they will be admitted into a detox. I met a woman once, actually not far from here, who I dropped off, and there on Thursday night, I got in a cab, took her to Bellevue, walked her into the detox, got her set up with a nurse, got her set up with the program, and then I had to go. So I left her there, prayed for her, left her there, got her some food, so she wouldn't have to be hungry and wait. And then she called me at 3 in the morning because they discharged her. And she was on the opposite side of town, and I had abandoned her. And she was furious because I had let her down, because I got her all the way away from her spot, and now she's stuck there and she can't get a subway ride back because she's stuck because they discharged her. They didn't have any beds in their detox, and instead of getting her to another detox, they just discharged her. So that was a frustrating situation. The other situation I've run into that's frustrating while I'm just bearing my frustrations is I had a guy who I called at 6 a.m. I was doing Don't Walk By follow-up, Sunday morning thing that you guys might be aware of. So you guys go out and find them Saturday night, bring them back, they do the shelter thing overnight, and then my team historically has been going in Sunday morning to do an assessment and hopefully get them connected further. I got a guy who wanted to go to detox Sunday morning. I called the Cornerstone Medical Arts in Queens. They sent their driver all the way over at 6 a.m., picked the guy up, took him back. Turned out he did not have his prescription drugs with him. He did not have she did not have a prescription for he had a heart problem. And because they are only treating the detox, they will not admit someone, they will not prescribe his heart medication. So in order to get into the detox, he needs to have a prescription from his doctor for his medication, or he needs to have the medication with him so that he can get it. So because of that, he was unable to get into detox. They picked him up, drove him back, found out he didn't have the medication, put him on a bus back to Manhattan. Ended up, in this situation, both stories actually worked out well. The woman miraculously had someone, like a taxi, this was the weirdest situation ever. The woman I dropped off in Bellevue, a taxi picked her up for free. What taxi picked her up for free? Drove her to Beth Israel. She fell asleep in the waiting room of a hospital. She didn't know where. And then she found out she fell asleep in the waiting room of the detox at Bellevue Hospital. At Beth Israel Hospital. Literally, she calls me the next day in the detox saying, I have no idea how I got here. They discharged me at 3 in the morning. I called you, left you this horrible message about how pissed off I was. And then this taxi randomly picked me up, dropped me off at Beth Israel detox. I have no idea how I got here. Woke up and there was a line of people going into this room. I just got in line. Next thing you know, I'm in a detox. Crazy. So the guy who we took to Queens ended up getting sent back. But then we had our social worker follow up with him Monday, got him to a hospital that would prescribe his heart medication, got him his medication, sent him back, and got him a bed. So he needed his medication to get a bed. But these are questions that you guys as outreach people have to take into consideration. I don't want to send this person to a detox without their medication. So you have to ask the person, again, you have to ask, are you on any prescription medication? Do you have Medicaid? Is your Medicaid restricted? These are important questions because what you're asking is the person set up for failure or the person going to be set up for success. And then you're also remembering that throughout the context of all this is that the next step is the program. So if someone is going into a detox, the goal is to go on a program. If someone's been using heroin for 10 years, it's very unlikely that a 3 to 5 day detox is going to solve the problem. Detox is a band-aid. It is not a solution. I met someone who told me that they did 42 detoxes before they got it right in terms of actually getting help and getting free. So detox will not be the solution. And again, as people, this goes back to my original point in terms of ministry versus just trying to connect them. There's a lot of people out there who will connect someone to detox. Like, oh, get you to detox, great. You need detox, get you there. There aren't a lot of people who will actually sit down with the person and be like, listen, I'll happily get you into detox. I'll call people. I'll get you, I'll make sure you have what you need. I'll do whatever I can to get you there. But let's be real. This is not a solution. Detox is one step in a long process. It didn't take you 3 to 5 days to get into this mess. It's not going to take 3 to 5 days to get out. So let's talk about what the next steps are. Let's talk. And there are people who are going to be open to that, and there are people who aren't. The people who are more sort of, like I said, ready, and this is also has to do with your sort of ministry approach. If you're able to take this in a ministerial perspective and actually talk about the love of God that you have the person, communicate the fact that this person matters, communicate hope. If you can do that, then the person will probably be more open to the idea of a program because maybe they think that all they need is a detox. And you're going to be the one that has to say, listen, I'm, again, happy to get you into a detox. The detox will not fix anything long term. What are you going to do afterwards? One of the things I tell people a lot is, I'm like, the problem with a lot of, and this is just a fact, is you have a lot of people who are in a certain environment where it's conducive for using drugs. And then they end up using drugs. and then they end up getting stuck, and then they go to a detox, and then they get out, and they go right back to the same environment they were just in. What are you going to do? You're going to end up using drugs again. It's almost inevitable, because they're in an environment that just breeds drug abuse, and if you don't help them see that you need to get into a place where they can get out and get an outside perspective, it's not going to be a long-term solution. So that's something that we have to remember with regards to the programs that we're talking about. The other issue that we run into is that detoxes, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, are going to try to get people into 28-day programs, into 90-day programs. They have relationships through billing and other avenues with other secular programs and other avenues for rehabilitation. And once you send that person into a detox, you now, unless you have them sign a release form, this is why we mentioned the release form, have them sign a release form so you can follow through, because what happens is you send them to a detox, they're a medical facility, unless you have a release form signed, you are not getting in any contact with that individual. You're not going to be able to talk to them, their nurses can't tell you what's going on, their counselors won't speak to you, nothing. As far as you're concerned, they're witness protection. So what that means is that the only people that they're going to be hearing from now are, guess what? Counselors, the people at that detox who might have a vested interest in getting that person to a 28-day program or a 90-day program. So if you talk to the person for an hour and a half about the Bowery Mission, or about the New York City Rescue Mission, or about a discipleship program, and then you get them in a detox, everything you just said gets like Etch-a-Sketch. You just shake it and it's gone. Because now they're talking to a new group of people who say, no, you don't need an 18-month program, you don't need a year-long program, you don't need Jesus. You just need 28 days to just like out in the woods to just get your mind right. And then we can send you back into the environment you were just in, that sent you down this mess in the first place, and hopefully you will have the tools to swim against the current of the world that put you in this mess in the first place. So again, I believe it's a lot of times it's well-intentioned. There are actually a lot of really solid followers of Jesus in these detoxes. I've met them, but I know that they are the minority. Some of them, I had one program, I sat down with their assistant manager, and she literally said, like, shh, I think like you do. Like, shh, like don't tell anyone, like I'm undercover. Like so like there's a mentality in detoxes and programs where we're talking about, I believe personally that when we talk about, our battle's not against flesh and blood, but against principalities and powers and, in dark places and the heavenly realms, I believe that affects, every system that we're in, so that even the system of billing, I'm not saying it's all, don't hear me saying there's demons behind every billing. I'm just saying that it's an uphill battle. We're fighting against, the people that we serve are fighting against the systems that are set up to keep them down. So we have to be able to find a way to sort of navigate those and equip them. So one of the simple ways we can do that is writing them a plan of action. So when you send someone to a detox, also give them a referral plan afterwards. Like say, okay, I'm recommending that you contact Pastor Julian at the Bowery Mission once you get into detox. I'm writing that down. And then what I'm going to write down is I'm going to have you sign a release form that actually allows me to call in and ask and see how you're doing so I can stay with you and walk you through this process. What this will do is it will allow you to stay and kind of walk with them through the process. So if they decide they want to go to a 28-day program, you can then be a voice of reason, not to say don't go, but to say, hey, listen, let's stay in touch. And let's find a way to work out. So maybe after the 28-day program, if you decide that's what you need or that's what you think you should do, maybe then you should go to the Bowery Mission. Or maybe then you should go to the rescue. So there's other ways to kind of just stay, like walk with someone through the process. So that's really important, because otherwise what ends up happening is for years and years, the Relief Bus, we've seen hundreds of people go to detox and hundreds of people back on the street, hundreds of people back where they started, or never seeing them again because they didn't ever actually stay in touch. We didn't actually get to walk through. So one of the areas that we're trying to improve as an organization is this process, is to say, we don't want to just send you out in the middle of nowhere and send you to a place where you can't, we want to actually walk with you through the process so that we can help kind of navigate these hitches along the way. But again, if you don't have a release form, if you don't have a plan of action, there's really not going to be anything left.